Welcome. We gather again in this space of quiet reflection, a sanctuary from the relentless pace of the world outside. In our modern lives, a chorus often resounds, both externally and within our own minds. More effort, try harder, push through. Effort, that unyielding application of energy, has been lauded for centuries as the cornerstone of achievement, the virtuous path to success. We picture the scholar burning the midnight oil, the athlete pushing their physical limits, the entrepreneur tirelessly building their dream. And indeed, sincere effort is a noble and necessary ingredient. But have you ever found yourself, after pouring forth immense effort, feeling depleted yet unfulfilled? Have you witnessed great labor yield surprisingly little, or worse, lead you further astray from what truly matters? This raises a profound question, one that whispers to us in moments of quiet introspection. Is there something that precedes effort, something that guides effort, making it not just powerful, but also wise? Is there an element, a foundation, that transforms mere exertion into truly effective, life-altering action? Today, we embark on an even deeper exploration, a more expansive journey to unearth the profound answer to this question. We will once again turn to the timeless wisdom encapsulated within The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by the late Dr. Stephen R. Covey, a beacon that has illuminated the path to personal and interpersonal effectiveness for millions. This work is not merely a collection of techniques. It is a philosophy for living, a framework for becoming the architect of a life rich in purpose and meaning. The 5 central themes we will now immerse ourselves in, expanding upon our previous discussion, are the vital components to fully grasping what is more important than effort. I invite you to settle in, to breathe deeply, and to join me as we meticulously, thoughtfully, and expansively explore each facet, allowing the wisdom to permeate our understanding and resonate within our very being. Our first, and arguably most foundational insight, the very bedrock upon which all effective action is built, is this: a proactive mindset. A conscious and deliberate choice of response is profoundly more important than mere unguided reactive effort. The term proactive mindset might initially seem like a simple concept, yet its implications are vast and transformative. Stephen Covey's Habit 1, Be Proactive, is a call to reclaim our innate human power. But why, precisely, is this internal stance, this way of being, more critical than the sheer volume of effort we expend? Imagine effort, for a moment, as the wind filling the sails of a ship. A strong wind, great effort, can propel the ship forward at impressive speed. But if the ship lacks a skilled navigator at the helm, if there is no one to read the charts, to understand the currents, to steer the rudder, where will this powerful wind take it? It might crash upon unseen rocks, be driven far off course by storms, or simply drift aimlessly in the vast ocean, all its powerful momentum ultimately serving no true purpose. A proactive mindset is that skilled navigator, that guiding intelligence at the helm. It is the fundamental human endowment of self-awareness, the recognition that between any stimulus, an external event, A challenging circumstance, the words or actions of another person, or even our own internal thoughts and feelings, and our response, there exists a crucial space. Within this sacred space lies our power to choose, our freedom to select a response aligned with our deepest values and long-term goals, rather than being a mere product of our conditioning or immediate impulses. Reactive individuals, by contrast, live their lives largely within that stimulus-response loop, often unconsciously. Their behavior is a function of conditions, circumstances, or their environment. If the weather is good, they feel good. If others treat them well, they are happy. If they encounter a problem, they might blame external factors, make excuses, or feel victimized. Their language often reflects this. "There's nothing I can do. That's just the way I am. He makes me so mad. If only." This reactive stance, even when coupled with tremendous effort, often leads to a sense of powerlessness, frustration, and a life shaped by external forces rather than internal design. Effort expended from a reactive place is like furiously bailing water out of a boat with a hole in it, without ever pausing to consider how to plug the hole. You can bail with incredible energy, day and night, but the fundamental problem remains, and exhaustion is inevitable. The effort, however intense, is ultimately defensive and unsustainable. Conversely, individuals who cultivate a proactive mindset understand that while they may not be able to control all external circumstances, they can always control their response to those circumstances. Their effort, therefore, is not a panicked reaction, but a considered action. They focus their time and energy on their circle of influence, those things they can genuinely do something about. This includes their attitude, their choices, their work ethic, their skills, their relationships. They consciously shrink their circle of concern, those myriad things over which they have little or no direct control, such as global politics, the economy, or the past mistakes of others. Wasting effort fretting over the circle of concern is like trying to change the direction of the wind by shouting at it. Let us paint a more detailed picture. Consider an organization undergoing significant restructuring. A reactive employee, let's call him Mark, might expend a great deal of effort in complaining to colleagues, worrying about job security, resisting the changes, and scrutinizing every rumor. His energy is high, his activity level is noticeable, but it's primarily focused on the negative, on what he can't control. He feels stressed, anxious, and his performance may even decline as his focus is diverted. His effort, though present, is counterproductive. Now consider Sarah, a proactive employee in the same situation. She acknowledges the uncertainty and perhaps feels a degree of concern. However, her effort is channeled differently. She focuses on understanding the reasons for the restructuring. She assesses her skills and identifies areas where she might need to develop to remain valuable or to seek new opportunities. She actively communicates with her manager to clarify her role and expectations. She offers to help with the transition in areas where she can contribute. She might update her resume and network professionally, not out of panic, but as a prudent, proactive measure. Sarah's effort is also significant, but it's constructive, solution-oriented, and focused on what she can influence. She feels more in control, less stressed, and is more likely to navigate the changes successfully, perhaps even finding new avenues for growth. The difference lies not in the absence of challenges, but in the response to those challenges. Proactivity is about taking responsibility for our own lives. It's about recognizing that our behavior is a product of our own conscious choices, based on values, rather than a product of our conditions, based on feelings. Developing this proactive muscle requires consistent practice. It begins with heightened self-awareness. Listen to the words you use. Are they reactive? I have to, I can't, if only? Or proactive? I choose to, I will, let's look at our alternatives. Simply changing your language can begin to shift your underlying paradigm. When you say, I choose to go to work, instead of I have to go to work, you reclaim a sense of agency. Focus on your circle of influence. When faced with a problem, ask yourself, what can I do about this? What is within my control? Even small, positive actions within your circle of influence can create a ripple effect, gradually expanding your influence. Make and keep commitments. Each time you make a promise, however small, and keep it, you build self-trust and strengthen your proactive character. Start with commitments to yourself, perhaps a commitment to exercise or to read for 15 minutes a day. Be a transition figure. Choose to break negative cycles. If you grew up in a critical environment, choose to be an affirming parent. If you work in a gossipy office, choose not to participate. Be the one who changes the pattern. It's important to acknowledge that being proactive doesn't mean being pushy, aggressive, or insensitive. Nor does it mean you won't feel pain, disappointment, or sadness. Proactive people still experience these emotions. The difference is that they don't allow these emotions to dictate their actions in a way that violates their core values. They subordinate feelings to values. Effort, when it springs from a reactive core, is often scattered, misdirected, and ultimately disempowering. It can lead to a life of firefighting, of constantly being at the mercy of external events. But effort that is born from a proactive spirit, from a conscious choice to act upon one's values, is focused, purposeful, and empowering. It builds momentum, creates opportunities, and allows us to become the primary creative force in our own lives. This, in its profound depth, is why a proactive mindset is not just important, but foundational, far surpassing the efficacy of undirected reactive effort. It is the master key unlocking our potential to shape our destiny. Having established the supreme importance of a proactive stance, the internal compass that allows us to navigate life with agency, we must then ask, towards what destination should this proactive energy be directed? This brings us to our second, equally vital insight, a principle that provides direction to our proactive efforts. Begin with the end in mind. This habit of envisioning our desired future is fundamentally more important than launching into effort without a clear destination. Habit 2. Why is this act of defining our ultimate purpose, our most cherished outcomes, before we even take the first step, more critical than the sheer intensity or volume of our subsequent labors? Imagine a team of highly skilled builders equipped with the finest tools and unwavering work ethic. They arrive at a construction site full of energy and enthusiasm, ready to expend tremendous effort. They begin to lay bricks, erect walls, pour concrete with remarkable speed and precision. Their effort is undeniable. But if there is no architectural blueprint, no shared vision of the final structure they are meant to create, what will be the result? Perhaps a collection of beautifully constructed, yet disjointed and ultimately useless fragments. Or, worse, they might meticulously build a magnificent edifice that is entirely unsuited to its intended purpose, or located in the wrong place. All that magnificent effort tragically misapplied. Begin with the end in mind is the principle of mental creation preceding physical creation. It means that before we immerse ourselves in the doing, we must first be crystal clear about what we want to be and achieve. It's about having a deeply understood, personally resonant vision of our destination for any particular journey, project, or indeed for our life as a whole. It's like meticulously planning the route, checking the weather, and ensuring the vehicle is sound before embarking on a transcontinental expedition. It is the blueprint that guides the builders. Dr. Covey offers a particularly poignant and powerful exercise to help us connect with this habit on a deeply personal level, the funeral visualization. He invites us to imagine ourselves attending our own funeral, perhaps 3, 5, or even 10 years from now. As we sit there listening to the eulogies, what would we want to hear said about us by our spouse or partner, our children, our closest friends, our colleagues, members of our community? What kind of person do we want them to remember? What contributions do we want to be recognized for? What difference do we want to have made in their lives and in the world? This exercise, though somber, cuts through the superficialities and daily distractions to connect us with our deepest values and what truly matters to us. The answers that emerge from this reflection, perhaps values like integrity, compassion, lifelong learning, service, creativity, or strong family bonds, become the bedrock of our end in mind. They form the criteria by which we can measure our success, not by external standards, but by our own internally defined purpose. From this deep reflection, we can then craft a personal mission statement. This isn't just a set of vague platitudes, but a carefully considered constitution, a personal charter that articulates our core values, our vision for our life, and the principles by which we intend to live. It becomes our personal standard, our compass, guiding our choices and actions, especially when faced with difficult decisions or competing priorities. A personal mission statement might include character. What kind of person do I want to be? E.g., to be a person of unwavering integrity and deep compassion. Contributions. What do I want to do or accomplish? E.g., to empower others through education and mentorship, or to create art that inspires and uplifts. Values/principles. What guiding principles will I live by? E.g., to live with courage, to practice gratitude daily, to always seek understanding. Effort expended without this end in mind is like sailing without a destination. You might sail fast with great skill, effort, but you're essentially adrift. You might end up somewhere, but it's unlikely to be the place you truly wanted to be, or the place that would bring you the deepest fulfillment. As the saying goes, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. But such a journey is often fraught with regret, a sense of wasted potential, and the painful realization of having climbed the ladder of success only to find it was leaning against the wrong wall. All that effort in climbing, however arduous and impressive, becomes a source of disappointment rather than triumph. Consider a young professional, bright and ambitious. Without a clear end in mind, they might chase promotions, salary increases, and prestigious titles, expending enormous effort to climb the corporate ladder. They work long hours, sacrifice personal time, and achieve conventional success. Yet years later, they might find themselves feeling empty, disconnected from their true passions, or realizing that the success they achieved came at too high a cost to their health, relationships, or personal values. Their effort was immense, but it wasn't guided by a deeply considered personal vision. Now, imagine another young professional, equally bright and ambitious, but who has taken the time to begin with the end in mind. Perhaps their personal mission involves making a significant positive impact in a specific field, or achieving a harmonious work-life balance that allows for deep family connections. Their career choices, the projects they take on, the skills they develop, are all filtered through this personal mission. They might say no to a seemingly attractive promotion if it conflicts with their core values or long-term vision. Their effort is still intense, but it's targeted, purposeful, and aligned with what truly matters to them, leading to a greater sense of fulfillment and authentic success. This principle applies not just to grand life plans, but to every endeavor we undertake. Before starting a project at work, what is the desired outcome? What does success look like? Before having an important conversation, what do I want the other person to understand? What is the ideal resolution? Before planning a family vacation, what kind of memories do we want to create? What experiences are most important to us? Beginning with the end in mind provides a frame of reference for all our decisions. It allows us to be proactive in designing our lives rather than reactive to circumstances. It empowers us to say no to things that, while perhaps good or urgent, are not aligned with our deepest priorities. It gives us the clarity to distinguish between mere activity and true accomplishment. When you know your destination, your effort becomes focused and potent. Every step, every action contributes to moving you closer to that vision. Obstacles are no longer seen as insurmountable barriers, but as challenges to be navigated on the path to a clearly defined goal. The end in mind becomes a powerful motivator, a source of resilience and perseverance when difficulties arise. Therefore, the act of deeply contemplating and clearly defining our desired outcomes, our ultimate legacy, is an investment that magnifies the power of all subsequent effort. It ensures that our energy is not just expended, but purposefully invested, leading us towards a life of congruence, meaning, and genuine achievement. This is why beginning with the end in mind is so profoundly more important than simply launching into undirected, albeit vigorous effort. It is the difference between building a sandcastle at the water's edge, destined to be washed away, and constructing a lighthouse on solid rock, built to withstand the storms and guide others. Having embraced a proactive stance and meticulously defined our end in mind, we possess both the agency and the destination. The next critical question becomes, how do we navigate the journey effectively, ensuring that our daily actions truly align with our ultimate vision amidst the myriad demands and distractions of life. This brings us to our third cornerstone principle: putting first things first. This discipline of prioritizing the truly important over the merely urgent is vastly more significant than effort expended indiscriminately across all tasks that clamor for our attention. Habit 3. Why is this deliberate act of discernment and focused execution on what truly matters more impactful than simply working harder or longer on whatever happens to be in front of us? Imagine your life as a large, empty glass jar. Beside it, you have a collection of large rocks, a pile of smaller pebbles, a heap of sand, and a pitcher of water. If you begin by pouring in the sand, then the pebbles, you will quickly find that there is no room left for the large rocks, the truly important things. However, if you first place the large rocks into the jar, then the pebbles, which will fill the spaces around the large rocks, then the sand, which will fill the even smaller crevices, and finally the water, you will discover that everything fits. The large rocks represent your most important priorities, those quadrant 2 activities that align with your end in mind. If you don't consciously put them in your jar of life first, they will be crowded out by the endless stream of less important pebbles and sand. Stephen Covey's time management matrix provides an invaluable framework for understanding this. It categorizes all our activities based on 2 dimensions: urgency and importance. Quadrant 1, urgent and important. These are crises, pressing problems, deadline-driven projects. They demand our immediate attention, and we often expend significant effort here, firefighting. While necessary, living primarily in Quadrant 1 leads to stress, burnout, and a feeling of being constantly overwhelmed. Quadrant 2, not urgent but important. This is the heart of effective personal management. Activities here include proactive work, relationship building, long-term planning, preventative maintenance, new opportunity development, personal renewal, sharpening the saw. These are the big rocks. They are important because they contribute directly to our mission, values, and high-priority goals. Because they are not typically urgent, they require proactivity and discipline to address. Effort in Quadrant 2 is an investment that yields significant long-term dividends. Quadrant 3, urgent but not important. These are often interruptions, some meetings, many popular activities, some mail/reports. They are urgent, often because they are important to someone else, but they do not contribute to our key goals. We often mistake the urgency for importance, and effort here can make us feel busy but ultimately unproductive, leading to a short-term focus and a sense of being out of control. Quadrant 4, not urgent and not important. These are trivia, busy work, some phone calls, excessive time-wasting activities, e.g. mindless scrolling, excessive TV. Effort here is essentially wasted, leading to irresponsibility and often dependence on others. The unfortunate reality is that many people spend the bulk of their effort reacting to the urgent demands of Quadrant 1 and then seek relief from the stress in the escapism of Quadrant 4. Quadrant 3 also consumes a great deal of effort because the urgency of others often feels like our own. The result is that Quadrant 2, the realm of true effectiveness and long-term well-being, is chronically neglected. Effort, no matter how intense, if primarily focused on quadrants I, 3, and I4, is like running furiously on a treadmill. A lot of motion, a lot of sweat, but no real forward progress towards your most significant goals. You might feel exhausted at the end of the day, having worked hard, but the needle hasn't moved on what truly matters. Putting first things first means consciously choosing to spend more time and energy in Quadrant 2. This requires a paradigm shift from managing time to managing ourselves, from focusing on things and schedules to focusing on preserving and enhancing relationships and on accomplishing results. How do we cultivate this discipline? Identify your roles and goals. Connect back to your end in mind, habit 2. What are your key roles in life, e.g., parent, spouse, manager, team member, individual? For each role, what are the 1 to 2 most important goals or big rocks you want to accomplish in the coming week that will move you towards your larger vision? These are your Quadrant 2 priorities. Weekly planning. Dedicate a specific time each week, perhaps Sunday evening or Monday morning, for Quadrant 2 planning. Schedule your big rocks first, treating them as inviolable appointments with yourself. Then fit other activities around them. This weekly perspective provides greater balance and context than daily planning alone. A daily plan helps you execute, but a weekly plan helps you prioritize what to execute. The power of no. This is perhaps one of the most crucial skills for putting first things first. To say yes to important Quadrant 2 activities often requires saying no to other, less important things, particularly those in Quadrant 3. This can be challenging, especially when faced with social pressure or the apparent urgency of others' requests. Learning to say no gracefully but firmly, explaining your prior commitments, your big rocks, is essential. Remember, when you say no to the unimportant, you are saying yes to the important. Delegation for leaders/managers. Effective delegation is a powerful Quadrant 2 activity. It involves entrusting responsibility and authority to others, freeing you up to focus on higher leverage tasks. Delegating tasks, not just methods, empowers others and multiplies your effectiveness. Courage and consideration in action. It takes courage to resist the allure of urgency and the pressure of Quadrant 1 and 3 activities. It takes consideration to plan your Quadrant 2 activities in a way that respects your own needs and the needs of important relationships. Consider the difference in effort and outcome. An individual operating without this habit, let's call her Jane, starts her day by checking emails, often Quadrant 3. An urgent request pulls her into a Quadrant 1 fire. She spends hours dealing with it, feeling stressed. Then, a colleague drops by with an urgent but unimportant issue, Quadrant 3. Before she knows it, the day is over. She expended a lot of effort, felt very busy, but made no progress on the strategic project, her Quadrant 2 big rock, that is critical for her career advancement and personal satisfaction. Now, consider Tom, who practices putting first things first. He scheduled a 2-hour block in the morning for his strategic project. He silences notifications, informs colleagues he's in a focus block, and immerses himself in this Quadrant 2 task. He makes significant progress. Later, when Quadrant 1 issues arise, he deals with them, but from a position of having already invested in the important. He is more discerning about Quadrant 3 requests. His effort is still high, but it's targeted, effective, and leads to a sense of accomplishment and control. The beauty of focusing effort on Quadrant 2 is that it proactively reduces the size and frequency of Quadrant 1 crises. Preventative maintenance, QI, avoids breakdowns, QI. Building strong relationships, Q2, prevents misunderstandings and conflicts, QI. Careful planning, Q2, avoids last-minute scrambles, QI. Therefore, the discipline of identifying and prioritizing our big rocks and then expending our primary effort on these Quadrant 2 activities is far more impactful than simply being busy or working hard on whatever presents itself. It transforms effort from a scattered, reactive force into a focused, proactive power that consistently moves us towards our most cherished goals. This is the essence of personal management, not just doing things right, but doing the right things. We have now explored the internal world of personal victory, being proactive, beginning with the end in mind, and putting first things first. These habits lay the foundation for individual effectiveness. However, life is not lived in a vacuum. We are inherently social beings, and our greatest achievements and deepest fulfillment often come through our interactions with others. This brings us to the realm of public victory, and our fourth critical insight, a powerful dyad of principles: thinking win-win, habit 4, and seeking first to understand, then to be understood, habit 5. Embracing these interpersonal habits is profoundly more important for long-term success and meaningful relationships than effort spent in adversarial competition or one-sided imposition. Why is cultivating a mindset of mutual benefit and practicing deep, empathetic listening more vital than simply striving to get our own way or forcefully asserting our efforts over others? Let's first immerse ourselves in thinking win-win, habit 4. This is not a mere technique, it is a total philosophy of human interaction. It's a frame of mind and heart that constantly seeks mutual benefit in all human agreements and solutions. It's based on the paradigm that there is plenty for everybody, that one person's success is not achieved at the expense or exclusion of the success of others. It sees life as a cooperative, not a competitive arena. Contrast this with other common paradigms. Win-lose. If I win, you lose. This is the authoritarian or competitive approach. People with this mindset are driven by comparison, position, and power. Their effort is focused on prevailing over others. While it might yield short-term gains for one party, it breeds resentment, distrust, and damages long-term relationships. Lose-win. I lose, you win. Go ahead, have your way with me. This is often seen as being nice or accommodating. People with this mindset seek popularity or acceptance. They have little courage to express their own feelings and convictions and are easily intimidated. Effort here is spent in appeasement, often leading to buried resentment and a lack of self-respect. Lose-lose. When two determined, stubborn, ego-invested win-lose individuals interact, the result is often lose-lose. Both will lose. This is the philosophy of adversarial conflict, of war, where both sides suffer. Effort is tragically wasted in mutual destruction. Win. People with the win mentality think only of getting what they want. They don't necessarily want someone else to lose. That's irrelevant. What matters is that they get their way. Win-win or no deal. This is the highest form of win-win. If a mutually beneficial solution cannot be found, then the parties agree to disagree respectfully. No deal. This preserves the relationship and avoids forcing a solution that isn't truly win-win. Effort expended within a win-lose or lose-win framework is ultimately unsustainable and often destructive to the very fabric of relationships, teams, and organizations. It's like two people in a rowboat, each trying to row in a different direction with all their might. Their efforts cancel each other out, or worse, capsize the boat. Thinking win-win requires a rare combination of high courage and high consideration. Courage to stand up for your own needs and convictions, and consideration to be sensitive to the needs and perspectives of others. It flows from a character of integrity, alignment with one's values, maturity, the balance between courage and consideration, and an abundance mentality, the belief that there's plenty out there for everyone. Those with a scarcity mentality believe that if someone else gets something, there's less for them. They find it hard to share recognition, credit, power, or profit. But how do we even begin to arrive at win-win solutions, especially when perspectives differ and needs seem to conflict? This is where the indispensable companion habit comes into play. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Habit 5. This is the principle of empathetic communication. This habit is the single most important principle in the field of interpersonal relations. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. They are either speaking or preparing to speak. They are filtering everything through their own paradigms, reading their autobiography into other people's lives.
Oh, I know exactly how you feel. I went through the same thing. Let me tell you what I did. These are autobiographical responses, and they often shut down genuine communication. We typically respond in one of 4 ways. Evaluating, we judge and then either agree or disagree. Probing, we ask questions from our own frame of reference. Advising, we give counsel based on our own experience. Interpreting, we try to figure people out, to explain their motives, their behavior, based on our own motives and behavior. While these responses might be appropriate in some contexts, they are profoundly ineffective when we are trying to truly understand another human being on a deep emotional level. Empathic listening, by contrast, is listening with the intent to understand. It means listening with your ears, your eyes, and your heart. You listen for feeling, for meaning. You put yourself in the other person's shoes, see the world the way they see it, understand their paradigm, understand how they feel. Empathy is not sympathy. I feel sorry for you. Empathy is, I understand how you feel, and I can see the world from your point of view. It doesn't mean you necessarily agree with them. It means you fully, deeply understand them, emotionally and intellectually. When you listen empathically, you are making huge deposits in the other person's emotional bank account. You are giving them psychological air. When people feel truly understood, they become far less defensive, far more open, far more willing to listen to your perspective and to work towards a win-win solution. After the other person feels genuinely understood, then and only then should you seek to be understood. Your efforts to explain your point of view will be met with far greater receptivity. Imagine a negotiation between 2 departments over scarce resources. If both department heads operate from a win-lose mindset and do not practice empathic listening, their efforts will be spent posturing, arguing, defending their own positions, and trying to outmaneuver the other. The result is likely a suboptimal compromise, a lose-lose standoff, or a dictated win-lose outcome that breeds resentment. Now, imagine one department head, let's call her Maria, decides to practice these habits. She initiates the conversation by saying, "Help me understand your department's needs and constraints regarding these resources. What are your biggest priorities and concerns?" She then listens empathically, asking clarifying questions, reflecting feelings, summarizing to ensure understanding without immediately jumping in with her own agenda. Once the other department head, David, feels genuinely heard and understood, Maria then says, "Thank you, David, that's very helpful. Now, may I share our perspective and needs?" Because David feels understood, he is much more willing to listen openly. Their subsequent efforts are now collaborative, focused on exploring creative options that can meet the core needs of both departments, a true win-win. The quality of the solution is higher and the relationship is strengthened. The effort involved in empathic listening is profound. It requires suspending your own agenda, your own ego, and truly entering another's world. But this effort is far more productive than the effort spent in arguing, defending, or trying to force your viewpoint. Similarly, the effort to find a win-win solution, which involves understanding underlying needs rather than just surface positions, is far more fruitful than the effort to simply win a battle.
These two habits are inextricably linked. You cannot get to win-win without first seeking to understand. And the desire to achieve win-win provides the motivation for deep, empathetic listening. Together, they transform interpersonal interactions from potential battlegrounds into fertile fields for creative cooperation and mutual respect. The effort here is an investment in building strong, synergistic relationships, where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Habit 6, synergize, which naturally flows from these. This collaborative, understanding-based effort is infinitely more powerful and sustainable than individualistic, competitive striving. We have journeyed through the crucial habits that build personal and public victory: proactivity, beginning with the end in mind, putting first things first, thinking win-win, and seeking first to understand, then to be understood. These principles, when woven into the fabric of our lives, transform our efforts from mere motion into meaningful progress. But how do we sustain this transformative journey? How do we ensure that our tools, our very selves, remain sharp, capable, and resilient? This brings us to our fifth and final cornerstone, an all-encompassing principle that makes all other habits possible and sustainable: sharpening the saw. This ongoing commitment to personal renewal and continuous improvement is fundamentally more important than sporadic, intense bursts of effort performed with a depleted or dulled instrument. Habit 7. Why is this consistent, balanced investment in self-renewal more critical than even heroic but ultimately unsustainable bouts of exertion? Dr. Covey uses the vivid analogy of a woodcutter who has been sawing for hours, becoming progressively less effective as his saw dulls. When asked why he doesn't stop to sharpen it, he replies, "I don't have time. I'm too busy sawing." This, in essence, is the plight of many who focus solely on effort and output, neglecting the very instrument that produces the results, themselves. Effort expended with a dull saw, a tired body, a stressed mind, an empty spirit, or frayed relationships is inefficient, exhausting, and ultimately counterproductive. You might work longer and harder, but achieve less, and risk burnout. Sharpen the saw is the habit of investing in yourself, of regularly and consistently renewing the 4 fundamental dimensions of your nature. The physical dimension. This involves caring for your physical body, eating well, getting sufficient rest and relaxation, and exercising regularly. Our bodies are our vehicles through life. Effort, no matter how well-intentioned, will falter if the physical body is neglected. Nutrition. This isn't about fad diets, but about consuming wholesome, nourishing foods that provide sustained energy. It's understanding how different foods impact your energy levels, mental clarity, and overall health. Effort spent planning nutritious meals and making conscious food choices is an investment in long-term vitality. Exercise. Regular physical activity, whether it's brisk walking, running, swimming, yoga, or strength training, improves cardiovascular health, builds endurance, manages stress, and enhances mood and mental focus. Finding an activity you enjoy and making it a consistent part of your life, even if it's just 30 minutes a day, sharpens your physical saw significantly. This makes all other efforts feel less burdensome. Sharpen the saw. Adequate sleep is crucial for physical and mental regeneration. Chronic sleep deprivation dulls cognitive function, weakens the immune system, and depletes energy. Similarly, developing healthy ways to manage stress through relaxation techniques, hobbies, or spending time in nature prevents the saw from becoming overwrought and brittle. The spiritual dimension. This is your core, your center, your commitment to your value system. It's a source of meaning, purpose, and inner peace. It's not necessarily religious, though for many it is. Renewing the spiritual dimension provides leadership to your life. Connecting with values. Regularly revisiting your personal mission statement from habit 2, reflecting on your deepest values and ensuring your actions are aligned with them. Meditation, prayer, reflection.
Spending quiet time each day in contemplation, meditation, or prayer can center you, provide perspective, and connect you with a sense of peace and purpose. Immersion in nature or great literature, music. Spending time in nature, reading inspiring literature, or listening to uplifting music can elevate the spirit and provide profound insights and renewal. Service to others. Engaging in acts of service, however small, can connect us to something larger than ourselves and bring a deep sense of fulfillment. Effort that is not grounded in a strong spiritual core can feel hollow and directionless, no matter how intense. The mental dimension. This involves continually honing your mind, expanding your intellectual capacities, and engaging in activities that stimulate thought and creativity. Continuous learning. Committing to lifelong learning through reading broadly, taking courses, acquiring new skills, or studying new subjects. This keeps the mind agile and open to new perspectives. An educated mind is a sharper tool. Writing and journaling. Writing can clarify thinking, process experiences, and generate new insights. Keeping a journal is a powerful way to reflect, learn, and grow. Planning and visualizing. Engaging in mental exercises like planning, organizing, and visualizing desired outcomes, connecting to habit 2 and 3, sharpens mental acuity. Limiting mind-numbing activities. Being mindful of how much time is spent on passive entertainment, like excessive TV or mindless internet surfing, and choosing instead activities that challenge and expand the mind. Effort without ongoing mental development can become rote, outdated, and ineffective in a rapidly changing world. The social-emotional dimension. This focuses on developing and nurturing meaningful relationships, practicing empathy, and fostering a sense of connection and belonging. This dimension is deeply intertwined with habits 4, 5, and 6. Making deposits in emotional bank accounts. Consistently practicing courtesy, kindness, honesty, and keeping commitments in your relationships. Practicing empathetic listening. Regularly seeking to understand others deeply before seeking to be understood. Habit 5. Seeking win-win solutions. Approaching interactions with a desire for mutual benefit. Habit 4. Service and contribution. Contributing to the well-being of others and the community fosters a sense of connection and purpose. Developing intrinsic security. Cultivating a sense of self-worth that is independent of external validation or comparison, allowing for more authentic and generous interactions. Effort in our endeavors often relies on collaboration and support from others. Neglecting the social-emotional dimension weakens these vital connections and can lead to isolation and ineffectiveness. The key to sharpening the saw is balance and consistency. Renewing all 4 dimensions regularly, even in small ways, creates an upward spiral of growth and improvement. Neglecting one dimension will inevitably impact the others. For instance, poor physical health, neglected physical dimension, can lead to irritability and impatience, affecting the social-emotional dimension, and reduced mental clarity, mental dimension. The common cry is, "I don't have time to sharpen the saw," but this is a Quadrant 1 paradigm. Sharpening the saw is a vital Quadrant 2 activity. The time spent in renewal is not lost. It is an investment that makes all your other hours more productive and sustainable. An hour spent sharpening the saw can save many hours of dull, inefficient effort. It's not about working harder, but working smarter and more sustainably. This habit of self-renewal is the one that makes all other habits possible. It's the personal production capability, PC, that ensures you can continue to produce, P, effectively in the long run. Effort, however great, if it leads to burnout or breakdown because the instrument, you, is neglected, is ultimately a poor strategy. Consistent, balanced self-renewal ensures that your capacity to exert effective effort is not only maintained but continuously enhanced. This is why the ongoing, quiet, often unseen effort of sharpening the saw is profoundly more important than episodic, intense efforts that deplete your core resources. It is the commitment to lifelong growth, the ultimate investment in your most valuable asset, yourself. And so, as our extended exploration draws to a close, we return to our central inquiry. What is more important than effort? Through the profound wisdom of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, we have journeyed to a deeper understanding. Effort, in itself, is like raw, undirected energy. It possesses potential, but without guidance, without a wise foundation, it can be scattered, misapplied, even destructive. What we have discovered is that true, lasting effectiveness, the kind that leads to a life of purpose, contribution, and deep fulfillment, requires something more than just this raw energy. It requires, first, a proactive mindset, the conscious choice to be the author of our responses, to own our power and direct our lives from within rather than being tossed about by the currents of circumstance. This internal locus of control transforms effort from a reactive struggle into a purposeful creation. Second, the discipline to begin with the end in mind, to craft a clear, compelling vision of our desired future, our ultimate values, and our unique mission. This vision acts as our unwavering compass, ensuring that our efforts are not just vigorous, but also wisely directed towards what truly matters most. Third, the wisdom to put first things first, to discern the truly important from the merely urgent, and to courageously invest our primary effort in those Quadrant 2 activities that build our future, prevent crises, and align with our deepest priorities. This transforms effort from busy work into strategic accomplishment. Fourth, the interpersonal grace to think win-win, and to seek first to understand, then to be understood. This commitment to mutual benefit and empathic communication transforms our efforts in relationships from potential conflict zones into arenas of synergy, trust, and creative collaboration. And finally, embracing all of these, the overarching commitment to sharpen the saw, to continuously renew and develop our physical, spiritual, mental, and social-emotional capacities. This ensures that our most vital instrument, ourselves, remains sharp, resilient, and ever-growing, making all our efforts more potent and sustainable. These principles are not quick fixes or superficial techniques. They are deep, universal laws of human effectiveness, interconnected and interdependent. They represent a journey of character development, an inside-out approach that begins with self-mastery and extends to enriching our interactions with others. The effort you expend, when guided by these profound habits, is no longer a blind striving. It becomes an intelligent, purposeful, and value-driven force. It is effort that builds, effort that connects, effort that renews, effort that truly makes a difference, not just in what you achieve, but in who you become. This journey of integrating these habits is a lifelong pursuit, one that requires consistent, conscious effort of a different kind, the effort of awareness, of choice, of learning, and of growth. It is perhaps the most rewarding effort we can undertake. Thank you most sincerely for joining me in this deep and extended reflection. May the insights we have shared today serve as a gentle yet powerful catalyst, encouraging you to look beyond mere exertion and to cultivate the foundational principles that will infuse your efforts with profound meaning, wisdom, and lasting effectiveness. May your path forward be one of proactive creation, guided by a clear vision, anchored in true priorities, enriched by synergistic relationships, and sustained by continuous renewal. May every effort you make be a step towards a life more fully and authentically lived.